Opening the special ad hoc committee meeting for November 25th, 2024. Roll call of members, James Me,
Here.
Vicky DeShawn,
Here.
Bill Stuckert,
Here.
Landon Hill,
Here.
and myself. We are opening up we are continuing our discussion on the definition terms for the zoning regulations, and we're picking up on the term of person. Currently, person means any individual, corporation, company, business, partnership, association, or legal entity. Does anyone have any changes they would like to make to this definition?
Mr. Chairman, nothing particularly about that definition, but reading through these definitions, I find that there are so many other definitions that contain values, numeric values of distance or quantity, so forth, that aren't referenced in other sections of the code. For instance, alley means a public right-of-way less than 20 feet wide. None of the other definitions throughout the section or code references the 20 feet, less than 20 feet wide. I recommend that we ask Mr. Gobert to go through the definitions and suggest changes that are needed to the definitions.
I'll entertain a motion for Law Director Gobert to review the definitions. Anyone make a motion?
So moved.
Discussion. So are you asking Mr. Goldberg to say, every time it says alley, to say 20 foot wide? That's all I'm saying.
Not necessarily.
Okay.
Make it the same as it is throughout the rest of the code. If the rest of the code doesn't reference a minimum of or maximum of 20 feet wide, then the rest of it shouldn't either. Or vice versa, all the definitions of alley be the same to include the 20 feet specification. But it's not, that was just an example. It's not just that definition. There are many other of the definitions that contain values that aren't referenced the same. And I think it would be good if we'd have Mr. Gobert go through all the definitions and give us recommendations as to what they should be, so that they coincide with the legal definitions and meaningful definitions for our particular needs.
All right, just for my notes, that's just, you just want me to go over the Bucyrus Codified Ordinance, Chapter 1139 definitions? Or do you want me to go over the entire shebang and make sure it's all uniformly applied?
I think just the 1139.02 definitions,
Okay.
so that we can make sure that they coincide with the rest of the code.
Excellent.
And so that they're, and maybe even the rest of the code, to make sure that they're in agreement with legal definitions.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, and that's not to say that we're not going to continue going through these.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
And then, as we move forward past 1139 into the meat of the zoning code, we need to keep that in mind as well to help Brandon out with this. If there is any conflicting things we see as we move forward with this, as this body reviewing the code, I think that's kind of why I thought we should start with the definitions. That way we can kind of keep them in the back of our mind. If we run into anything that's conflicting, we can address it at that point. But I understand what you're saying now, Mr. Stucker.
Sure, I agree.
So I will second Bill's motion.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carried. Let's move on to personal services. Means any enterprise conducted for gain, which primarily offers non-tangible services to the general public such as shoe repair, watch repair, retail dry cleaning, barber and beauty shops, and related activities.
Mr. Chair, I would at least entertain some discussion regarding this. This is something that'll pop up as you, as zoning administrator, are trying to determine whether or not a use is, a permitted use or conditional use or whatever that use is by right in a specific zoning district. This code, I think we've established, dates back to the early 2000s. Businesses have changed, that type of thing. Do you feel that the and related activities gives you enough space to kind of say, hey, I think this is close enough to a personal service use to make that approval? Or do you think it needs to be maybe more specific or more specific or more broad? I don't know. There's just, there is a portion of the code, a similar use determination in which the Board of Zoning Appeals can make a determination in certain instances that declares a use as similar to another use that's permitted in a zoning district. But many times, I feel that it should be, the zoning administrator should have a little bit of his own discretion in making those calls. So just a thought. From my experience as zoning administrator many years ago to whether or not you feel it, I guess, how do you feel about it?
Well, just by judging on what is mentioned, there's only a few of these that are even falling in the downtown business district. There's a shoe repair. I'm not sure if there's a watch repair, dry cleaning, barber shop, but then there's and related activities. So I would just imagine that we could just put any service business.
Which is kind of by the first, offers non-tangible services to the general public. That was just a thought. That we don't have to modify anything. It was just a thought that, I can remember going back to trying to approve certain, the axe throwing going in downtown was a good example of that,
Right.
where we had to go to the planning commission and have them declare it a similar use in the downtown business district. So, just a thought. If you think that covers it and you think you have enough there to make, calls that are close enough for you to make, then by all means.
Well, for personal services, if we
I'm not
want to
saying
add
axe throwing wasn't
restaurants
personal service,
and restaurants are already allowed.
They'll be coming up next, and retail stores,
Right.
they're separate definitions. I just want to make sure that once we're actually sitting here talking about it, it gets discussed, because it's been things that I've noticed in my experience in the job.
Yeah, I think it,
Would you recommend zoning administrator's discretion?
And that's, how broad do you want to get with that? I guess, Brandon, is the question, right?
Well, it can't fail for vagueness. So it has to be sufficiently clear enough that you can read it as a person and try and comply with it. So you can't just simply say, personal services shall be defined by the zoning administrator.
But if we keep in the non-tangible services to the general public, such as and related activities at the discretion,
Sure.
at the determination of the zoning administrator,
Correct. That should keep it from failing for vagueness.
and then, you always have that similar use determination built into the code if there's something that you really are questioning, it's just,
Well, personally, I think the term related activities kind of even covers.
provides
person.
that, yes.
Yeah.
And if that's the case, I'm happy to leave it as it is. Like I said, as this body moves forward, I'll probably be bringing up things that I noticed years ago and have always stuck in the back of my mind, and that's one of them.
Because down the road, I mean, we could have other personal services that can come up. I mean, when this was written, I mean, there wasn't any internet cafes or
Drive-thrus.
would that be considered I guess, a personal service?
Right, and then is the related activities enough for you to make that call is just what I was trying to get to,
Right.
basically.
Okay,
And if we feel that it is, then let's move forward.
all right.
So are we feeling that's okay? I brought my pencil this time.
Yeah.
So I can erase what I just
I
wrote.
I think we're all in agreement that that definition's okay.
Okay.
I think so.
I'm fine with that, I just wanted to talk about it.
Now, for professional office, means the business office of a person or persons engaged in providing the general public services of professional nature, such as legal, medical, accounting, and architectural services. Anyone have any suggestions, any changes to that?
Am I allowed to? suggest
Yes,
that?
you
Okay.
are.
I would recommend changing the verbiage a little bit, and instead of saying such as, do including but not limited to legal, medical, accounting, architectural services, etc.
Yeah, that sounds good.
May I ask you to repeat that so I can write this down?
Sure. Would our
Such
clerk
as.
like to read back the minutes? No, basically I said, instead of have it say, such as, and have it say, including but not limited to
Okay. Gotcha.
legal, medical, accounting, architectural services, etc.
Would real estate offices would be included in that?
It's professional office.
Yeah, professional nature, yeah. Bill, do you have anything?
If the motion needs to be made, I would make that motion.
Second.
Mr. Hill made the motion, Mr. Nee seconded for the definition of professional office. Just stay with that change. Recreational facilities means public or privately operated uses such as country clubs, golf courses, swimming pools, or other areas maintained for the purpose of providing active and passive recreation.
So to back up a minute, do we need to vote on that motion in second?
Yes.
Yes, sorry. We need to take a vote on professional services. All those in
Professional
favor?
office.
Sorry.
Professional office. I'm sorry. All those in favor, vote A.
Aye.
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 Sorry. All opposed? Motion carries. Going over recreational facilities. Anyone have any changes they'd like to see to this?
Well, could we do what we did in the professional office where we include the verbiage, including but not limited to
Yes.
recreational facilities? I'm not sure where you want to put that. Means public or privately operated uses, including but not limited to. We could take
Yeah.
out the words such as, and then say country clubs, golf courses. And did we say et cetera up in professional office after architectural services, or we just left it? I guess including but not limited to, that says it.
Yeah.
Okay. So I would say et cetera.
Can we have a motion to make that change to recreational facilities?
So moved?
Second.
A. We have a roll call vote of aye, or A, sorry,
You'll have to call out everyone's names for a roll call vote.
a roll call vote. Mr. Sean?
So I'm saying aye rather than yes?
Oh, I'm sorry. I should have just said all
All those in favor?
Yeah.
All those in favor, vote aye.
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 All opposed? Sorry.
It's okay, Mike. You'll figure it out by the time we get through the end of the game. I believe in you.
Okay. The all interesting residents.
Yes, you're dwelling.
Do we want to,
Did you do that?
we have to refer back to dwelling.
We did make the change in there.
On the right side, they're alphabetical.
And you guys already reviewed.
Yeah, we already have that reviewed.
Okay.
So there's no changes to that.
Okay.
Well,
There was to dwelling, but not residence.
Correct.
got it.
Next, restaurant. Means a business establishment where food and beverages are prepared and presented for human consumption on the premises. Do we need to add anything to that with the advent of,
Were you gonna say food trucks?
yes.
That was gonna be my question.
I suspect that would be its own separate definition, wouldn't it?
Yeah, food truck.
Being that if we're gonna legislate it as a different activity, it would not be included in the restaurant definition?
Well, the food truck that's across the street from Little Athens has picnic tables, so they would be a restaurant under this,
Right.
because it's food and beverages that are prepared and presented for human consumption while on the premises.
So what about restaurants that provide carryout? Because this does not
Oh.
allow for carryout in this definition.
Yeah, up on top of the hill up there by the hospital. All they do is
Correct.
carry
All
out.
they do is carry out. Little Athens only did carry out there for a while too.
Human consumption on the premises.
On the premises or to be taken to a secondary location for consumption.
That's weird.
That is weird.
Or including but not limited to,
Which includes, yeah, or to include carry out facilities. Carry out / delivery. With the advent of Uber Eats and Postmates and whatever other service. I think we all know what a restaurant is, but you know.
right.
When you try to put it into words, I guess.
Yeah, but I'm just saying to avoid any questions or, I guess,
Could you just say on or off the premises? Presented for human consumption on or off the premises?
Yeah, that would include carryouts.
sure would, yes.
Wouldn't that include food trucks too? Or is that too
So-
broad?
Yeah, I suppose it would depend on what any pending legislation related to food trucks would specifically say, but at this point, using Brandon's example, that would include the one up there on North Sandusky, I would assume.
Well, when it was still on North Sandusky.
Right. So in lieu of any additional legislation from city council.
Not to nitpick, but I'm gonna nitpick. What about stores that offer samples? That would be covered under this definition,
I don't think they would really be considered restaurant.
according to the definition, it would be.
According to the way it's written now.
That's correct. It would.
So perhaps we say, or perhaps I look and see if there's a cognizable definition in the ORC. And if there's not, then we definitely want to put in somewhere in there talking about a license from the health department in the state of Ohio. It goes through regular inspections, whose main purpose is to prepare food and beverages for human consumption, whether on or off premises.
Well, would a deli or bakery in, say, Kroger be considered a restaurant? When you
Correct.
can take breakfast food out in the morning and you can also get coffee.
Correct.
Carly's. That would be classified as a restaurant. Carly's?
Yeah, that'd be, yeah.
Could we form that in a motion to have Brandon look and see if there's what was the word you used in the ORC? And then if not, maybe recommend some language that would include licensing via the health department?
Sounds good.
I would make that motion if that was worded enough for you, Miranda.
I will second that motion.
I know. Only one entertain a motion. Whoever did this, right?
Yes, sir.
Landon, you entertained it, right?
I made the motion, yes,
You
sir.
made the motion. Bill, you seconded?
Yes.
Made the motion. All in favor say aye.
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 All opposed? Motion carries for Mr. Gilbert to look into the definition of restaurant with the Ohio Revised Code. Mr. Gilbert, do you have any questions? Moving on to retail stores. Means stores primarily engaged in selling merchandise for personal or household consumption and in rendering services incidental to the sale of goods.
I'm okay with that one.
Anyone else have any comments for retail stores?
So retail store, that's referring to food?
No, retail stores would be anything, product-wise. I mean, like shoe stores,
Could though, grocery would be considered,
Well-
Walmart would
yeah,
be considered a
anything
retail
would fall
store.
under retail.
Because it says for personal or household consumption. I guess I'm thinking
You could even say
consumption.
UDF is retail store. So really, any kind of business that's offering a item is considered a retail store. Are we all good with retail stores?
I'm good with it.
I am, yes.
Okay, this next one, right of way means a strip of land lying between property lines. Herein is located a street, thoroughfare, alley, or easement dedicated or otherwise acquired for use by the public. I think it's a good definition.
It's a good definition, but doesn't it involve cities right of way or?
Well, here's the thing, right of way could also mean utility right of way for utility
Yeah,
easement.
yeah.
So we really can't put specific for government right of ways. Because AEP has a right of way for their high tension power line. It's their right of way, it's their easement. I would say, can I make the motion?
Oh, that's true.
You can entertain a motion, but you can't make a motion.
Okay, I'd like to entertain the motion for the right-of-way to be researched by Mr. Gobert on the updated definition of right-of-way.
So moved.
So,
Motion carries.
You'd have to ask for everyone's vote. It hasn't carried.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. May I have everyone's vote? Vote with A? Aye?
Aye.
Aye?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. for Mr. Gilbert to research this.
So what's the question that I'm answering specifically? Because I can,
This, the more,
Legal definition of
the
right-of-way.
more legal definition of right-of-way, because in here, I think it's kind of vague. There's a more detailed description of right-of-way. Actually, I probably should have brought it with me. It's in, the Ohio Surveying Laws has a definition of right-of-way. I do believe it's in Ohio Revised Code as well, and it's more explained. I just feel this is very broad. Next is the definition of sidewalk. Means a paved portion of a street lying outside the curb lines or edge of pavement of a roadway intended for pedestrian use. Does anyone have any suggestions or comments for this definition description?
I would suggest that we insert right-of-way after street. Paved portion of a street right-of-way lying outside the curb lines.
But wouldn't that put the right-of-way on the other side of the sidewalk? On the outside?
Not on the house side.
No.
The right-of-way doesn't include the sidewalk. Well,
Yes, it does.
Say that again, will you, Bill?
I'm sorry?
Could you repeat what you were recommending?
Yes, insert right-of-way after street, so it states sidewalk means a paved portion of a street right-of-way lying outside the curb lines. Otherwise, it's saying paved portion of a street, which could be the actual street area that the vehicles travel on.
Right.
I don't like that, because right below it, we've got
That's
a
not just-
street
yeah.
that has its own definition.
And it's the full width of the right-of-way between two property lines. So that would be conflicting then, right, Brandon? Is that what you're saying?
Correct.
Yeah. So no changes to sidewalk?
I don't think you can without putting it in conflict with the definition of a street.
Okay. You okay, Bill?
Yeah, I'm
Okay.
fine with it. It was just a suggestion. That's all.
Okay. Similar use means a use not specifically listed in any of the permitted building or use classifications of any district, but which may be found.
You can do it.
I have no idea what that word is.
Who wants to take a
Analogous?
shot? Analogous.
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 What's that mean?
So like when you analogize something, it's similar.
Okay. And added to the classification according to the procedures and requirements of section 115502E of this ordinance.
And I'll just put up the 1155.02E here, similar use determination. That's kind of what I was referring to earlier with, and how we were taking out the such as and included, and inserting including but not limited to. But the similar use determinations is a mechanism that can go through the Board of Zoning Appeals in an instance where they feel there's a similar use, but it's not specifically permitted in a district. I don't know how well you guys can read the screen up there, but I did put it up there in case you wanted to see what that is referencing.
Does anyone have any changes to this
No, I
or
think-
suggestions? Brandon?
I don't have any suggestions.
Okay.
I think it's okay. It's just, like I said, that's the other mechanism there that allows for expansion of the definitions. And when those do actually take place, if the Board of Zoning Appeals does approve a similar use determination, those uses then become permitted by right in whatever district they were applied for in. So that's probably something our office needs to do a better job of. Maybe those decisions need to be brought back to City Council, and then we update those uses as a similar use determination is made. Not something that happens very often. Bill, I don't even know if you've seen one since you've been on the board or not yet.
No,
It's
I
not
don't recall.
Not something that happens very often.
So, yeah, I'm fine with that definition.
Okay. Moving on to street, means the full width of the right-of-way between two property lines, both paved and unpaved, intended to provide principal means of access to an abutting property. Anyone have any comments?
I don't know, looking between street, right-of-way, and sidewalk, it's like I don't know, it doesn't terribly, it's almost like street.
Street and right-of-way is pretty much the same.
Yeah, it's almost like streets trying to convey what a right-of-way is, and the right-of-way. I mean, the good news is I think we all know what a street is, but you just have to know that includes, it encompasses from property line to property line. That can include the tree lawn, the sidewalk.
Right away.
Right. So I would be okay with that definition. It's just, I don't know, a bit odd when you look at it next to right-of-way and sidewalk at the same time.
Well, as long as somebody doesn't use that definition of an excuse to be able to park up on the tree lawn. You know,
That's against the law.
Yeah, you
Pardon?
Can't park there.
I realize that, but if they're cited for that, saying they're not parked on the street.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
And the definition includes that portion of the right-of-way as street, then they could use that excuse. Mr. Gobert would have to maybe give us a determination on that one.
Almost sounds like street should be restated as the hard surface of the roadway, paved or unpaved.
Oh, there you go.
Because then all, well, I hate to use alley again, but I mean, we have quite a few paper alleys out there that aren't paved and would be considered a street per se. Well, that'd be something that Brandon would have to, we'd have to totally rechange the definition of street.
So how about we wait on that one until until Brandon comes back.
Let's come back to street. Structure means anything constructed or erected the use of which requires location on the ground or attachment to something having a fixed location on the ground, including among other things, walls, buildings and patios. For the purpose of this ordinance, the term structure shall not include fences. Notwithstanding anything to the contrary, structure includes mobile or movable structures. We almost need a definition for movable structure, or structure movable. Because I think structure it's permanent.
Well, the example I would give would be these prefabricated sheds that are simply dropped off and.
And then you can move them if you sell the house.
Right. Whereas, you know, you may prepare a pad or of gravel or whatever the case may be, but I think if you intend to enforce the code as, you know, faithfully, you know, putting up a shed, you should have to abide by whatever setbacks are required in your zoning district. So by including the movable or mobile structures, that gives you as the zoning administrator the ability to enforce those setbacks for whatever zoning district they're in on there.
So we need to add like a subsection to structure.
What do you want the mobile, or what do you think needs further defined as far as mobile or movable structures?
Well, within the zoning now, I mean, we don't have a definition for these sheds, like you said. I mean, most sheds are considered, they all sit on grade or have I mean, really, they don't have a foundation.
Yeah, gravel or whatever.
Right.
Someone's put down, you know. I mean, as I've interpreted it, I've always used that specific line as how I'm able, you know, if people question whether or not they're required to get a permit for such a shed, I've always used that line as the justification and always felt comfortable in doing so, but it's up to you.
Include shipping containers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. And those have the, you know, additional requirement of going through the Board of Zoning Appeals if they're going to be used as a accessory structure, so I think it includes that as well.
Well, is that another one where we can maybe put including but not limited to? And you could say,
Prefabricated accessory structures. Sure. If need be.
and would that also include the storage containers?
I think so. Oh, no, probably not,
Okay.
but yeah, you could put that in there if need be.
Any other suggestions for this definition? I'll entertain a motion for structure to be changed to include, but not limited to, shipping containers and portable sheds.
Portable sheds are prefab.
Yeah, it's a prefabricated sheds,
Prefabricated sheds.
comma, shipping containers, et cetera, probably.
Who wants to entertain the motion?
So,
Second?
Motion passed.
We didn't vote.
Oh, I'm sorry. All those in favor of the motion, vote aye.
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 All opposed? Motion carries. We're coming back to streets. And we had a question for you, Brandon, about the definition of street. If we should change the definition to street meaning any hard surface. Well, I guess any hard surface that vehicular traffic travels on.
any hard surface in between property setbacks?
Well, it already says both paved and unpaved.
Brandon, if you just look at it as the definition of street relates to the definition of right-of-way and sidewalk, they all just kind of, street to me right now is being defined as closer to maybe what right-of-way should be defined as, but
I would say street should mean that portion of the right-of-way intended for vehicular traffic. Between two property lines.
Mr. Stucker's point, correct me if I'm misrepresenting it, was if you're allowing on-street parking, can they go back to the definition of street and say that, you know, the sidewalk or the tree lawn is definition, per definition is part of the street, so I'm allowed to park there, right?
Should it also say means the full width of the dedicated right-of-way? Because you have some developments where the access roads are not dedicated. You see what I'm saying? Like some streets in, I'm not sure if Bucyrus has any, some streets in condominium developments, the streets aren't dedicated.
Yes, we have a situation with the access road out there by the golf course to the houses back and behind.
Oh, that's private.
Red Oak Court.
Red Oak Court, yes.
It's private, but yet they have that's one part I am not very clear on. I always had that question when I was surveying. A private street, does it have a right-of-way to it?
Is the street the right of way? Is that what you're saying?
The entire street's the right-of-way. But it's not dedicated. I mean, it's a private street.
Do you have any thoughts, Mr. Goldberg?
I do. So, street actually has a definition in the Ohio Revised Code. Street means the entire width between the boundary lines of every way open to the use of the public as thoroughfare for purposes of vehicular travel.
Yeah. Let's use that one.
I agree.
Make a motion to use that one for streets.
Second.
All right. Mr. Me made the motion, Mr. Hill seconded for a change in definition to match Ohio Revised Code for the definition of street. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Next definition is structural alteration. Means it,
Mr. Chair, I have a question for Mr. Gobert.
What's up?
What portion of the Ohio Revised Code is that? Because you'll have to quote that behind it when you update it.
It's in my notes.
But I would like to have it for the record, that way I can put it down.
Oh, okay. Ohio Revised Code 4511.01 BB.
Thanks.
Yeah.
structural alteration means any change which would replace or tend to prolong the life of a supporting member of a structure, such as bearing walls, columns, beams, or girders. I don't see any need to change.
I recommend adding something.
Yes.
So I recommend that it reads, any change which would replace, tend to prolong the life of, or change the character therein of a supporting member of a structure, such as bearing walls, columns, beams, or girders.
Okay.
Is that another Ohio Revised Code definition?
No, but it should be.
Okay, well, no, I thought you were reading.
Okay. Could you read the first part of that again, please?
Sure, so I think it should read something along the lines of, any change which would replace, tend to prolong the life of, or change the character therein of a member of a structure such as bearing walls, columns, beams, or girders, etc.
So if it's not a load-bearing wall, you're including a non-load-bearing wall too to remove it. Is that a structure alteration?
Could that also mean
Probably not by
exterior?
that definition, but if you move out of the zoning code and into a building code, such renovation would require a building permit. Working off of this definition, it simply wouldn't require a zoning permit. So,
If I would remove an interior wall, it would just require a zoning permit,
a building permit.
a building permit.
Yep. Because that includes any type of remodel, improvement, rehabilitation to any structure, is what triggers the need for a building permit. So if you were to get into the structural alteration is then when that kicks up to also requiring a zoning permit. The load-bearing walls, usually you see it just with, the expansion of a structure or something like that.
Would it be a good idea to add fascia walls to this? Or exterior walls? I mean, bearing walls, that would be exterior, but, well, bearing, yeah.
I'm pretty comfortable with it as it's written, but would certainly welcome Mr. Gobrick's recommendation to it, but I think it's okay as far as our enforcement purposes in the zoning office when you use it in combination with the definitions of a building permit.
Yeah, you guys don't have to listen to me.
Yeah, I think we're better off if we do then.
Yeah, because exterior walls are barren.
So I would make a motion to include Mr. Gobert's recommendation, tend to prolong the life of or alter the characteristics, is that how you worded it, Brandon?
Correct.
Of a supporting member of the structure.
Do I have a,
Second.
who had the motion?
I did.
Landon. Second?
Yep.
Mr. Me. All those in favor vote aye.
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 All opposed?
Oh, you're good.
Use means the purpose for which a building or land is arranged, designed, or intended, or for which such or building may be occupied or maintained.
Okay, I don't have any issue with that one necessarily. But again, I only look at, Brandon might look at these through a legal mind. I only look at them as dating back to my days approving permits
Yeah.
and enforcement, I guess.
The only quarrel I have with it is, I don't understand what, or for which such or building may be occupied or maintained. I don't know what that means.
Yes, I was looking at that also, and I think the "or" should be replaced by "a," for which such a building may be occupied or maintained.
And for which such a
Yeah, and apparently I'm not looking through it, looking at it with a grammar eye either, because I agree with that.
and for which such. Okay, so it should read, and for which such a building may be occupied or maintained?
Correct.
Do I entertain a motion for that change?
So moved.
Second.
May I get a call? May I get a vote? All in favor, say aye.
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 All
Aye.
opposed? Motion carries. Next term is variance, means a modification from the strict terms of the relevant regulations where such modification will not be contrary to the public interest and where owing to conditions peculiar to the property and not the result of action by the applicant, a littoral enforcement of the regulations would result in unnecessary and undue hardship.
That was a lot of words.
Yes.
You can shorten that up for us, couldn't you?
I could.
With simplifying it, not thinking about it too much, could I make a motion for Mr. Goldberg to shorten that up to the same meetings?
I second that motion.
Me made the motion, Mr. Stuckert seconded. Can I have a vote of all in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed?
On
Variance.
that, I'm sorry, I guess I should have
Say
spoken
something,
before we
go ahead.
voted. Yeah. Just when you referenced that, Brandon, if you go to 1147, .02,
What's the next? Council.
that is where the variances are listed for the Board of Zoning Appeals portion of the enforcement of the zoning code.
Okay.
So I would just recommend that you take a peek at that as you're working off of that definition, maybe.
Sounds good to me. 1147.
Brandon, that was 1187.01, right?
1147.02.
At this time, I need to make the arrangements for the next meeting for is December 10th at 4 o'clock.
December 10th, 4 o'clock.
December
It's on
10th
a
is our
10.
BZA.
Oh, crap. Does that Thursday work?
That Thursday would be the 12th.
The 12th?
Should work. I can let you know if it doesn't.
Okay. Tentative December 12th, a Thursday at 4 o'clock for the next,
Did you say December 12th?
yes.
That works for me.
Okay.
I know I missed the last meeting. Is everybody comfortable with the amount of progress we're making in an hour?
I think we could probably push through and finish the definitions.
I was leaning towards that myself, but it's
Okay.
I mean, we only got one, two,
handful more.
5?
five. We only got 5.
Okay. Okay, next definition, yard. Means a required open space other than a court unoccupied and unobstructed by any structure or portion of a structure from 3 feet above the ground, the general level of the graded lot upward. Front yard means that portion of a lot extended across the front of the lot between the side lot lines and being the minimum horizontal distance between the street right-of-way and the front of the building or structure. Rear yard means the portion of a lot extending across the rear of the lot between the side lot lines and being the required minimum horizontal distance between the rear lot line and the rear of the building or structure. Side yard means a portion of a lot that is located between the side lot line and the nearest building or structure.
I don't see a problem with this definition as long as Mr. Gobrick does not have issue with it when he reviews all of these definitions.
Never seen any mention of 3 feet above
I know that, yeah, that's interesting, isn't it?
Yeah.
general level of graded lot,
Upward.
upward.
I didn't know that it was required either.
Well, it's required via our setbacks dependent upon what zoning district you're located in. That yard space, open space is required to be unoccupied, 10 feet if you're in the R1, 8 feet if you're in the R2. So that's, which, those things may ultimately change once we get to those portions of the code, but
Yeah.
That's how I understand it.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with this one.
Okay. Mr. Bean?
Good.
Mr. Stucker?
Good.
Okay. Mrs. DeShawn?
Yes, I'm fine.
Mr. Hill? Zoning permit means an official statement as issued by the city certifying that all requirements of this ordinance have been met. It's pretty self-explanatory.
So I guess my question with that is,
Yeah.
what is the function of a permit? Are you giving them permission to do it?
As long as they meet all the requirements.
I would just say an official statement granting permission.
Granting permissions of as issued.
Because you're saying this is being done prior to, not after the fact?
Correct.
But leaving certified that all requirements,
Mhm.
just getting rid of as issued by.
Correct.
Okay. Any other comments towards this? Or suggestions?
Well, the statement is that all requirements of this ordinance have been met. The zoning permit is issued prior to,
Right.
so the requirements haven't been met until the project has been completed. So,
Perhaps saying all prerequisite requirements of this ordinance have been met sufficient enough to begin the project? Something to the effect of that?
Or, I hate to get too verbose with it, but that supporting documentation provided during the application process satisfies because that's what I meant as well, Bill. It's, we issue a zoning permit, then you move on and do it. We don't issue a zoning permit after we verify that fact.
exactly, right.
So a zoning permit issued by the city certifying that all requirements of this ordinance have been provided for in the supporting documentation of the application? Something along those lines? I
That's
don't know.
good, yeah.
That sounds better, yes.
We'll entertain a motion.
I'll make the motion to modify zoning permit to read as an official statement issued by the city certifying that all requirements of this ordinance have been provided in supporting documentation during the application process.
Second.
Repeat that.
Or maybe Miranda. Did you get it?
No.
Okay. Help me out, Brandon. Certifying that all requirements of this ordinance have been provided for in the application process.
An official statement granting permission as issued by the city certifying that all requirements of this ordinance have been provided for such that progress can be started.
That all requirements of this ordinance have been provided for in the application process such that
such that progress may commence. Something to that effect.
Certifying that all requirements of this ordinance have been provided for in the application process. Okay,
Okay.
so that will be my motion, and Bill, you seconded.
Yes.
If you would like to do so still.
All in
Yes.
favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Zoning district means a portion of the city within certain regulations or requirements or various combinations thereof apply under the provisions of parts 1 through 4 of this ordinance.
Okay.
That one seems fine to me.
Yeah.
Brandon's good, I'm good.
Okay. Zoning inspector means the employee of the city duly charged with enforcement of this ordinance pursuant to chapter 1141.
There are portions of the code that refer to the zoning inspector as zoning administrator. Is that a problem? Or is,
That would need changed.
but then 1141.01 specifically states it as zoning inspector.
Correct. It sounds like that's the same thing as property maintenance code enforcer and how that had to be changed.
So as we come across it moving forward, it should be changed to inspector.
Yep.
If we come across administrator.
So no changes to that present.
Yep.
Okay. Zoning map means the map of the city showing the various zoning districts as established by chapter 1157, together with all amendments subsequently adopted by city council.
I'm okay with that.
I'm fine with
Bill,
it.
Jim? Vicky?
Yes.
Okay. That concludes the definitions. We've already set the next meeting.
And that was the 12th at 4?
Yes, tentatively at 4,
12th.
the 12th.
BZA meeting on the 10th.
I know, we'll be there. And then, so for our upcoming hearing, are we still working through what would be the administration and enforcement portion, Title VII, chapters 1141 through 1151? Are we all comfortable with that?
Yes.
Yes.
We'll need some, we don't need anyone else to come in.
No, not for that, I don't suspect.
Okay.
I did, being that we started at 1137, the subdivision regulations portion of the code, which is 1125 through 1133, I did reach out to Dylan from McKeever, and I'm gonna provide him with a copy of that, and at a certain point, whenever we decide as a committee to look at that, he's gonna review that and kind of bring that up to, you know, how things are currently done in the subdivision regulation world, and I did give a copy of that to Jeff Dunn as well, so I'm gonna have him provide some feedback on that just whenever we get to that portion of it.
And if we are doing this whole thing, we're also gonna have to review manufactured homes section.
Yeah, that would be 101 and 103, or 1101 and 1103. But to me, the definition should have been first anyway, so I felt comfortable starting there. It kind of makes sense that they're first, I guess.
I will entertain a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Second?
Motion carries. Thank you all.
Aye.
Aye.
Camera's off. Bye.